name is Bret Kuhn. I began playing percussion when I was 10 years old back in 1969. Went on to be very involved with music, especially jazz band in high school and then in college as well. And while I was in college, I was fortunate enough to make the Disney World All-American Band. So I enjoyed spending a summer down there in 1980. It was a great experience. I remember at the end of the summer driving home from Disney World and going to DCI in Birmingham and sitting in the stands and being so excited. The next year I went up to Cavaliers and marched Cavaliers with some really good friends who had done it the year before. And that was kind of the beginning of my time in drum corps. And in the spring of 1984, Jeff Fiedler called and asked if I'd be interested to become a member of the Cavaliers Drum and Bugle Corps staff. We started using Yamaha gear. First season was '87. Managed to combine for 6 championships between then and 2005 and 5 high drum trophies. Once I retired from the Cavalier organization, I went on to enjoy consulting with the Bluecoats, and now looking forward to going on and doing some program coordinating at the Colts. Currently, I'm adjunct faculty at Prospect High School. I'm also adjunct at Northern Illinois, and then I teach throughout the year at Vandercook College in the city as well. One of the things I enjoy most about Yamaha is the working relationship. You know, since 1986, just seeing the engineers come over every year at finals, wanting to know how things went with the product, how they could make it better, what was the next step, what do we think of the sound, why do we do this, why do we do that, always striving and pushing the envelope to make a better instrument. It's great getting to walk around the lot and see all the Yamaha gear and all the great teachers, instructors, great young performers out here. It's no surprise Yamaha's won 13 DCI titles and 12 high percussion awards since 1985. The gear is obviously a big part of that process, and just watching everybody out here work and strive for better performance is exciting. I always love this time of year. You know, having been to Japan so many times to teach and do clinics and things, it's always been a desire of mine to get to go there and actually see where all the great equipment is made. You know, I've heard so much about just the quality of production and the care that goes into the instruments. Obviously, we see it and hear it. You know, it'd be exciting to get to go be a part of that process. And I think for me, it's not the country of origin, but it's the company of origin. And Yamaha is definitely a one-world music company, and hopefully someday I'll get to see that.
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey,
good to see you.
How you doing, man?
How you been?
Great. Yeah, and Ray and all these, you know, all the guys teaching have done a great job.
Yeah.
Well, first, it's just great to see you again. You know, it's been a long time, and actually, I have not seen you since you had the baby.
Yeah.
So,
thank you very
right,
much.
Father Joel now.
Yeah,
Father Joel.
baby boy Seth. Very happy.
Absolutely,
So.
that's beautiful. Well, I was going to ask you now that I remember when I first started having my family and trying to juggle the schedules that you guys have to maintain the gear and do all the product relations with the cores and just all the things you have to do at Yamaha and the family. How's all that working out as far as just balancing things?
It's been really good. We've had a great summer. We have a lot of great people that we work with, so we're very fortunate that you know, if one of us is out with other family or things like that, we have a lot of people that can help us do what we do. It's a great thing that we have such great teams that we work with. We have so many great musicians, instructors, and people that we work with. And we have a lot of great people at Yamaha too that help us do everything that you see or don't see behind the scenes. And we've been fortunate this year to make some great strides with some products and testing and some things that we really needed to get done. So.
Well, you know, the sounds never cease to amaze me, just the quality, you know, just what Yamaha does to produce those instruments. You figure the 23 years I've been playing the equipment and the gear, and just watching the evolution of the product, watching the guys come over from Japan and take that knowledge back and then constantly improving and churning out a better instrument, you know, for me is amazing. You know, for me personally, my next step, my next goal, if you will, is to actually physically go there. All these years of playing the gear, I want to go see where the magic happens. I want to go see where things are put together, where things are built, how they do that. What is that process? You know, all those years, you know, Joey and all the engineers from Japan, all of who come over here and they want your input and they want to know what you do, and then they go back to work on it. And they go back to, what is this back? Is this like this little 8x5 room that's got secret codes on the walls and nobody, you know, like, I think we should do it.
Well, I think we need to. I think we need to show everybody too what really happens behind the scenes to make what we enjoy so much, you know, here a part of marching percussion and DCI and all the WGI events that we go to and helping people get the right tools to make music.
Well, you give me the date and I'll clear the calendar. How's that?
All right, let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's make a date.
Let's do it. Well, why don't we tell you what? Why don't we go watch a few more lines warm up and then head over to the stadium and see this whole thing in action?
Let's go see how this works, huh?
Okay.
We'll see
Sounds
how
great,
it all
man.
comes together.
Joel, I thought we'd stop for just a minute before we went in the plant.
Yeah, this is one of the largest facilities Yamaha has, and Yamaha employs over 25,000 people and has 35 facilities throughout the world as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I tell you, I'm excited and I think we need to get started.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go.
Well, Bret, here we are, Yamaha Drum Factory.
All right, stop. I can't believe we're here. All right. First of all, it's been, all these years playing the gear.
Yeah.
And I'm finally here to see where all the magic happens,
Yeah,
right?
This is it. This is where a Yamaha drum is born. Whether it's a drum set or a concert percussion snare drum or marching drums as you're so familiar with.
Well, just the smell of wood, you hear the machines running, and you think about how much work gets done here, the craftsmanship, the raw materials, square one, right?
I've been a lot of places in Japan, but this is one of my favorite stops right here, I gotta tell you.
Well, let's check out a piece of wood. Can we do that?
Well, here's where it starts. You have to start with the right materials. So what Yamaha does so well is it's very careful to pick the resources from different regions of the world, depending on how a tree grows, a North American maple, or the Japanese birch that we use from our forests here in Japan. Philippine mahogany, all those resources are meticulously picked for the sound. It's just for the sound of the wood. So as you can see here, we start with start in this factory with a two grain plot. So as you can see, this is the horizontal grain, and this is the vertical grain.
So making sure at home, you can see this, we got one grain going vertically, and the other side of this two-ply going horizontal, and that cross grain is for sound and durability.
And durability makes a strong drum shell. That's what we want to start with. So, as you can see, again, you have a certain grade of wood that we use. And it's meticulous from start one, right?
Well, it's beautiful from the beginning. We haven't even done anything to it.
Yeah. Well, we have 35 steps that we're going to go through here today, kind of show you how a Yamaha drum is born.
Well, step one is done.
Yeah.
We got the materials. Let's do step two.
Step two.
Let's go do it.
All right, here we are at step one. We have those raw materials. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to cut the depth of the shell. This is the initial cut. So let's do it.
So obviously very safe, very clean, clear cut.
Quick cut, safe for the worker and everything as well. Got a backstop over there. So from here, we're going to take it over and we're going to get our diagonal seams cut.
Okay,
all
right.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, now we're going to see one of the unique Yamaha processes. This is where we cut the diagonal seam. So what he's going to do here is he's going to take our piece of wood. There you go, a little help.
Get it up there.
Nice, nice. And as you can see on the machine there, that's accurate up to 1/10 of a millimeter. So very accurate. And now this is where it's really important. Now this is where the outer circumference of the shell is going to be cut.
Okay. Now the diagonal cut they're making.
Yes.
Explain to me again, what's the idea of doing the diagonal instead of just a normal vertical cut?
Well, what it does for us is it gives us a longer surface area, basically to distribute any weight or tension that's on the drum shell. So it makes a stronger drum shell.
Okay.
So with the demonstration, it can show you kind of, for instance, when we put this in the mold, it's also very easy to butt these two joints up together like this, and it makes a very snug fit when we're putting it in the mold. We'll see that step next. But what this also does is any tension or any weight that's put on that drum shell from the tuning, basically it distributes that tension over a larger surface area, making a stronger drum shell.
And the other thing that's unique to Yamaha, what we do is we cut each sheet to length. So that's why it's very important that we have an accurate cut at this station right here. So that way you don't have any seams that are, they have air gaps in it. So what's really important is when every seam is butt up against each other, is we have a solid shell construction. There's no air in between any of the seams, which creates kind of a barrier for the resonance of the shell.
Absolutely. Nothing to fill.
Nothing
It's
to
all
fill.
good
Exactly.
quality all the way
it's
around.
all solid all the way through. And then
Yeah.
we stagger those seams throughout the construction of the shell too. So there's not one weak point of the shells.
Great. All right. Well, excellent job.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Next step?
Next step.
Let's do it.
Let's check it out.
Okay, now we're to the next step of the process here. We've obviously got our wood cut. What exactly is going on here, Joel?
Well, what we're doing is we're applying the glue. And what's important about this process is you notice this roller has glue on the top and no glue on the bottom, whereas this roller over here has glue on both sides. So for instance, this would be an inner ply or an outer ply, and this would be the very inside, the
very
sandwich ply.
inside,
Yeah.
okay.
And so now, once we have the glue on there, we take that and we actually put that into the mold. This is a fiberglass reinforced plastic mold. And what he does is we're able to put that into the mold, and it makes it really easy to get in there and line up those butt joints. Now that's a butt joint where they have to butt together. Now what this mold does is this applies equal pressure on the outer part of the shell, the outside of the shell.
Okay.
Once he's got this all hammered in and cleaned up in here, what we're going to do is we're going to move it and put it into the air seal system.
Now, the air seal system, I've heard you guys talk about that before. What exactly is that?
Well, the air seal system is like, imagine like an airbag. What we do is we take that and we put it on the inside of the shell.
Okay.
And what that allows us to do is apply equal pressure on the inner and the outside of the shell at the same
Okay.
time. It's not doing sections at a time like some other manufacturers.
Yeah.
It's actually putting equal pressure all the way around on the inner part and the outside of the shell.
And that's to basically just reinforce that consistency of gluing
Exactly.
and make sure that glue is spread evenly.
Make sure we start with a round shell.
Okay.
So you notice now what he's going to do is he's going to lift this mold right over the airbag. You can see the airbag's in there.
Yeah.
And he's going to inflate this airbag to a certain specific amount of pressure, PSI. You can see now he's going to take that, he's going to put it in the microwave.
All right, and that microwaving process is for basically what?
That's going to cure the wood and the glue basically at the same time. Have you ever put a muffin in the microwave too long? Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What happens?
It's going to get hard.
Yeah, it gets hard
Rock
as a rock,
hard,
right?
yeah.
So what we want to do is we want to take all that glue and all that wood, all the moisture that might be in there,
And
we
just
want to
get
remove
that out
that. Yeah.
immediately.
And we make a
Okay.
rock hard shell here.
Okay. Now, once that comes out of there and that shell's made, obviously here we're basically just pushing that done shell out.
Yeah. Basically, we have a pressure machine that just drops the shell out of the mold because it's so tight in there. We need to put a lot of pressure to get that out.
Okay.
Of the shell.
Okay. Very good.
All right, now we're going to move over to this process here, and as you can see, now that we have all the glue has been pressed out of there, we've dried this and cured it. You can see we have these rough edges with a bunch of glue hanging out over the sides here. So
See, that was going to be my big question when we came from that process. Because, you see the guy pounding on that,
Yeah.
and you're like, whoa, is that the bearing edge?
Yeah.
Obviously, that has nothing to do with the bearing edge. That's just getting a nice, strong construction from the beginning, and then you got all that glue and et cetera, right?
what we do is we make the shell a little bit larger than we need to. We maximize the efficiency of the size, but we make it a little larger so that any of this right here, or if there's any hammer marks or imperfections, we can cut that off. So what we're going to do with this process now is we're going to make this a square shell, basically. We're just going to lop off these edges here. As you can see over here with this machine, very specific to this process, you have two blades that are going to cut both sides at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can see how this machine actually can do various sizes of shells and expands to different sizes.
So basically, these arms are going to expand to keep that consistent pressure on the shell.
Right.
And then the blades, that's what those grooves are
That's
for?
what those grooves or notches are for,
the different cuts.
And so
Okay.
we can chop all the way and go all the way and cut all that stuff right off of there. So why don't we get
Beautiful.
into this? There you go. Now you can see it's cutting both sides at the same time and making a really clean cut. They have to replace these blades about every, I think it's every 200 or so shells that we
Wow.
make. They have to replace those blades.
Yeah, that's
very
amazing.
important to have a sharp blade for this process.
Very clean, very clear.
Yeah. So now you can see all that's cleaned off. This is a really cool part to see. at this point you can see the construction of all the plies put together. There's no gaps where the butt joints are, all of that. You can see our diagonal seam, how clean that has come together and so forth. So,
Yeah, and you know, it's amazing because you can see that seam, you can't feel that. I mean, just the quality of that, that's remarkable.
yeah, this is really what creates the quality and consistency of sound that you get with Yamaha. It's important to have a start with a consistent product, especially when we talk about tuning an Untitled drum line. So,
Well, and you just think about laying a drum head on there and wanting to get that really in round and get that head seated. That's the ticket
yeah,
right there.
it's solid and looks clean now.
Excellent. Beautiful. Thank you. Arigato. Okay, so obviously we're on to the next step in the process.
Yeah.
Now we've got our
grab
shells
our,
back here.
Yeah, let's grab our nice shell here, and you can see we got all our nice edges. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the inside of this shell and we're going to sand it.
Okay.
And what's important about that is obviously just removing any excess, anything else that's in there, as well making a nice smooth surface for the air and the sound to travel through. What's important about this process is you can see the machine over here is automated. So what we're able to do is take out a specific amount of the inner ply so that it's an even column all the way around the inside of the shell. What's important about that is, again, if we have an uneven surface on the inside or outside, sound can travel differently through the shell. So again, this is another part of making another part that makes this shell more consistent. So it's good to see you again. How are you?
Hey, nice to see you. Been a while. 5 minutes.
He's got another process that he works for, our sanding machine here.
You can see these arms are expanding right here to really control and hold that shell in place.
So what's important about this too is you can see that we're going to have so many rotations of the shell and the sandpaper going back and forth so that we take off the even amount or the same amount every time we sand the inside of the shell.
This is really neat. You can see that as this shell's being sanded, that dust is immediately going out of the building. I mean, we're standing here talking. You would have no idea there was something being sanded, basically. So,
yeah, the machine is also he's got a timer so he knows how long to run the machine.
So there's no choice being made here. It's all programmed.
Right, it's all programmed in. And so now that he's got this, he's going to take and hand sand the inside of the shell just to make sure that there's no other imperfections in there. So we'll kind of move over to this table over here. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to do a light sanding on the inside. He's going to clean off the shell first a little bit here.
Nice. A little bit of air to get that residual
just
dust
get
out.
the extra dust off of there. And then he's going to visually look at the shell for anything that he needs to kind of smooth over or anything like that.
Okay.
Typically it's just a small light sanding and there's not much that needs to be done here. So I'm going to spray that back out. So
He's going to put me to work.
Oh, yeah.
So. Nice. Wow, that is nice.
There we go.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Okay. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to put a light lacquer now on the inside of the shell.
Okay. What's the purpose of the lacquer?
The purpose is really just to get the shell cured. You know, a lot of the heat and humidity that we have with marching and so forth, it's really important for us just to make sure that the shell stays consistent during all those different elements that it's going to face. So this is just a light lacquer to kind of give the shell a little bit more reflective property inside, and then as well it cures the wood so it doesn't have any, so it doesn't change as much with the heat and humidity that we have.
Just sealing it up a little bit.
Yeah, it seals the wood a bit.
Okay, that's great.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next step now, just like the inside of the shell, we're going to do the outside of the shell. He's going to hand sand a few areas. Again, this is a visual inspection of the shell too to make sure that everything's in place. There's no inconsistencies with the manufacturing of the shell. And then we're going to move over to this machine just like we did the inside. We're going to do the outside of the shell the same way. This is a large, basically a belt sander here on a specific rotation of the shell and then specific speed of the belt itself. So it gets a nice even column on the outside and the inside of the shell this way, which is very important again to having that consistent sound from drum to drum.
Well, the thing that's neat for me is to see the craftsmanship where they're still eyeing things, that human touch integrated with the technology, obviously, and the pressures and the different things involved.
Yeah, this we're able to take off a specific amount of wood, you know, to make it smooth. But what's really important to this whole process, just like music needing musicians, you know, we have artists making the drums as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, well, here we're coming into where we wrap the shells. As you can see, we use adhesive all the way around so that finish stays consistent through all the heat and humidity that it's going to face with marching.
That reminds me of the first Cavalier drums we had with a silky silver wrap.
Yeah,
you know?
silky silver, one of the classic Yamaha colors.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, some of the new things that you guys are doing with stains is incredible as well. Can we take a look at that?
Let's go check it out.
Okay, cool.
Well, Bret, now it's time to put some color on, and as you can see here, we're staining the shell. Something that's unique to Yamaha is we're able to use a staining process for our marching percussion.
Well, it's really cool watching him apply that stain. I'd have it dripping on the floor.
Yeah, same here, yeah. What's really nice about this too is this actually gets into the grains of the wood. He's making sure that all the pores of the wood are going to have the black. So if anything happens to the shell, if it's scratched or anything like that, it'll still remain black. So it's kind of impregnating the wood, as we say. And one thing that's nice is you can only do this if you have a quality shell. When you make a quality shell like this and you're able to see the wood grain, you can just apply a stain. That's what's so great about the Yamaha product. It's that quality shell that we've already made, and now we can take advantage of that by just using a stain, not having to cover it.
Well, and I like the various colors we've seen here today too. We got the blues and the reds along with the black. So
yeah, our blue forest, red forest, and of course the black forest that he's doing for us right now. Very unique to Yamaha in terms of a finish.
Well, they're beautiful already, and just knowing this is the first step in this finishing process, I'm excited to see what's coming next.
Yeah, we have a couple more steps to make sure it's a shiny drum for our customers. So let's go take a look.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, Bret, here we come into the second step of finishing, and one of many steps. And in here you can kind of see the craftsmanship, the artistry that goes into just finishing a drum shell.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, just to walk in here, you're blown away with. Wow. Can I take those home? Like,
Maybe. Yeah,
will those fit in my luggage?
I'm not sure. Another thing that we want to go through is how many steps it actually takes just to finish a drum.
Well, let me grab the samples and we'll kind of show everybody how we do it.
Yeah, first of all, we can show, as you saw just previously, you saw the initial stain, and then there's probably about 10 steps involved with this in total. It takes about a total of 2 days to finish just one drum. It makes a drum more appealing, I think, in terms of you have a visual aspect that the natural wood of the drum is still there. You know, the organic part of the drum, there's nothing interfering with the sound quality of the drum as well. And yet we have these beautiful blue, reds, and blacks that we very popular for Yamaha. If we go into some of our custom colors, if we break this down, this can take a total of 5 days and can be anywhere from 35 to 40 steps in this process of just making, this is blue sparkle, so another very original Yamaha color for our drums. And again, this is a lacquer, this isn't a wrap. So the steps involved in making this, not only the drum sounds great, but it looks fantastic, and it's, again, a true craftsperson has to be able to do this.
That's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. I mean, the sparkle is half of the process here, as you can see. Another thing that's very unique to Yamaha is the drying process that we have. We have a special paint that allows us to do this in a timely manner. It doesn't take as long to dry, and we still get that beautiful shiny finish that you're always looking for. Especially in those years with the Cavaliers where you're picking out these colors, gorgeous, really do some amazing things.
I tell you that the 2000 drums, that maple custom with the chrome, I was like,
it's a beautiful finish.
That was killer.
Yeah, and it's done right here.
Yeah, beautiful.
All right, well, let's check out the next step. Well, Bret, over here we have our special drying room, and this is where the finishes become like hard as a rock, and we're getting ready to start doing some other work on the drums.
Well, and it's exciting because we can see we're at 24 and 25. We're getting up there in the process.
We're getting there. Okay,
all right, let's
go take a look.
Oh, stop. No, top secret. We'll be right back. Whew, hot in there.
Well, Bret, now we're in the final sanding and buffing stage of this, the drum shells. As you can see with some of the custom colors that we have here, this has actually been sanded by a fine sandpaper. That polyurethane finish basically turns this white color, and then what we're going to do is we're going to buff this out.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the white. It caught me off guard for a minute. You know, we saw the beautiful shells before,
right?
And you come over and you're like, well, wait, what happened to that? Obviously, there's a whole nother level yet to go from what we saw. They look finished before.
Yeah, what you were seeing before is basically that we're seeing the lacquer applied, but then we're also seeing that polyurethane. And even though the drum looks really shiny, there's a whole nother sanding and buffing process that has to happen to protect the drum, protect the finish, and also make it super smooth and super shiny.
Well, great. Let's go and see what it looks like after we get it through that.
All right, let's get the buffing going.
Okay.
Well, as you can see over here, we have an automated process again. This buffing process takes about 15 minutes for a shell of this size. And just check out the difference in the finish already.
Yeah, that's really cool the way that does that.
Let's Now check that out. You can see the reflection right there in the shell. I mean, that's how fine it is. Yeah, that's beautiful. You still have the beauty of the natural wood grains showing through it. So now that we're ready to do this, we're ready to go on to the next step. We're going to start making this sound like a drum as well as look like a drum. All right, let's do it. Let's take it. Okay, now we're going to see the bearing edge cutting process. This is one of the most important parts of making a drum. You can change the color or texture of the drum based on the angle of the cut and so forth. So here we're going to see a marching snare drum on the bottom. This is the snare side being cut. Okay, so now that we have this, you can see we have a finished bearing edge here on the bottom side of a snare drum. So as you can see, we have a specific cut here, and we have different tools or different blades for different angles. So if we have a different angle we want to cut, we use a different tool.
Different angle of bearing edge.
Yeah,
so
right.
People understand that those different angles create different sounds.
Yeah. And so on this, what we've done is we have a pretty sharp, this is a classic Yamaha 45-degree bearing edge, and then we have the snare bed cut out on this as well.
Now, you can tell, and for those who may not be familiar, the snare bed is actually where the snares come across the drum. In fact, do we have a set of snares?
Yeah, let's get that.
Thank you. And basically the snares would play this way. Now, these are not tight right now, they're not in a strainer and tune, but you want to make sure those center, by having that basically snare bed there, the center guts are going to be touching the head very firmly in the center, because that's that column of air that goes through the drum that makes that snare sound.
That's how you get the articulation that you get too. If this was just a flat edge, you'd lose all that articulation, especially at the pianissimo volumes. The other thing you notice on a Yamaha bearing edge is we have a specific start and end to that snare bed. And what that allows, our theory is that we want as much of this touching the head. If you can imagine, the drum head is wrapped around over top of this, and we want as much of that membrane vibrating on the bottom of this drum touching, so we have that articulation and that full body sound.
Right, absolutely.
So, and this blade will be changed probably every 200 or so drums, because again, we want to have a very fine bearing edge, and we need those tools to be very sharp to cut a nice even edge.
Well, again, just the consistency of what we're trying to do here, that Yamaha is trying to produce the same sounding drums all the time, it's a testament to that. Every 200 drums, let's get a new blade in there.
Yeah.
So.
And again, we have a great machine to do this. It's a semi-automated process, but then it also relies a lot on the craftsperson to make sure that it looks great.
Right. So. Great workers, 12, 13 years doing this. Yep. I mean, obviously this is not a job you just walk into and start up.
Need some training for this one too.
Well, excellent.